Hi everyone, and thanks for being with me. Over the last couple of days since I put up my last post, I've been thinking seriously about what division actually means. And this came to the fore because a person had posted, I think it was Sue, and I apologise if I've got the name wrong, but someone has posted a post asking for an explanation of what Susan Ley did that I thought indicated a sense of divisiveness. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that because it relates to Gaza. And I've had this conversation many, many times on my channel, so it doesn't hurt to have it again. But I'd be interested to know what most of you think, or what some of you think, I guess, in relation to the issue around Gaza. And I do ask you to subscribe to my channel, make some comments if you wouldn't mind. I really do enjoy reading them. And this is an example where reading your comments, of which there were some fantastic comments, and there were some really long pieces that people had put in there. I hadn't had the chance yet to respond to many of those, but I will. But please contribute. This is about building a community of generally progressive people who like to think about issues generally. But this particular issue is important because, as I said in my previous post, the thing about Susan Ley's press conference was that she did fabulously well. And I'm not here just because I'm progressive politically. It's because I like to look at anything that anybody does in the context in which it is done. I don't like to differentiate simply based on politics alone. If somebody does something or says something that needs to be celebrated and makes sense, no matter which side of politics you're on, I want to acknowledge that. It's important to do that. It's important not to be living solely in your one and isolated bubble. The thing about Susan Ley's press conference was that she did so well until she got to the end. And someone asked whether or not, and I discussed this in my previous post, why it was divisive. Well, it was divisive simply because she didn't have to do it. She could have just left the conference as it was, and we could have celebrated it for being a really interesting disclosure as to who she is and what she means to the Liberal Party. And I thought it was fine until she did what she did. So what does that mean? Why is it divisive? Well, number one, it's divisive because it was unnecessary. She didn't have to do it. Number two it was divisive simply because she had it planned to do. It was designed to express her disdain for any views that are anti-Israel, which equals anti-Semitism in her mind. Now, there was a time when Susan Ley was actually pro-Palestinian, but she took a trip at some point, don't know whether it was last year, the year before, whenever it was, to Israel, and they were able to convince her that what Israel are doing in Gaza is quite okay. Now, I've said this many times, and I just wish to reiterate this, and this is where the divisiveness comes in. If you object to, which I do greatly, what happened on October the 7th in 2023 as a horrific event, if you see Hamas as a terrorist organisation, which they are, then they're a horrible organisation, right? Accept all of that. That is just the way that it is. Even though there is an argument which says that Hamas was able to bring to Gaza an education system, a way of living, a sense of pride, I guess, in that particular region, as terrible as an organisation as they are. Politically, they controlled the population. They determined what happened. People didn't have freedom to vote, and a whole lot of other things that we see in a democracy as being important. None of that happened in Gaza. But they did provide them with a standard of living that was, I guess, reasonable. Not having been there, can't necessarily say what that looked like, only from reports that I've seen. So Gaza, though, has turned into a hellhole, primarily for women and children. We all know, you and I know, no matter which side of politics you're on, you know that it's been used as an opportunity for Israel to wipe out Palestinians in Gaza. Let's forget about West Bank and what happens there, but in Gaza this was an effort to wipe them out. The Israeli government, without doubt, are working towards complete eradication of Palestinians in Gaza. In doing so, it just can't argue against the issue, I don't think. And if any of you do, please say so. I'll have a go at you, because I think that's fair, and I hope other people would have a go at you too, if you're supporting the IDF in what they're doing in Gaza. Now, this becomes a political issue of division when someone cites their support for Israel. And this is what Susan Ley did. Susan Ley and the Liberal Party generally, not all of them I hasten to add, but the Liberal Party generally support what's happening, what the IDF are doing in trying to eradicate Palestinians from Gaza. That is what they believe. Now, I'm also disappointed in the Labor Party because they don't make decisions necessarily that are in favour of the Palestinian people. They've done some sort of loose efforts in the United Nations by supporting Palestinian state, by declaring that what the IDF are doing is unhelpful. But the Australian government hasn't necessarily made a firm decision or articulated their stance against the eradication of Palestinians in Gaza. And that's shameful that they haven't done that. You know, if Netanyahu decided to make a trip to Australia, would the Australian government arrest him according to the crimes that he's been held accountable for by the ICC? Would we arrest him as a signatory to that agreement, to the International Criminal Court? Would we arrest Netanyahu? I don't believe we would. But it would be telling if we chose to do so. It would be telling, and it would put us in a position of power and authority in terms of what's actually happening in Gaza at this particular point in time. But I want to come back to my original point. The point is, did Susan Ley actually attempt to create this division, the division that sits between what the IDF are doing, what the eradication of the Palestinians in Gaza? Is that all okay? If they're saying that it is, then that is divisive. If they're saying that it's okay for a genocide to take place and for us to watch it, not say anything about it, not respond to it in any way, which partly is what the Labor Party are doing as well, is that wrong? And is that divisive? It becomes divisive when we equate standing against the IDF as being anti-Semitic. That is when it becomes divisive. And that is what Susan Ley was doing. She was endeavouring to tell us that the Labor Party are anti-Semitic, even though I don't believe the Labor Party have necessarily made the decisions and articulated their stance against the IDF in the way that they should. Nevertheless, she wanted to create a division on this one issue. Now, she didn't need to, and it was wrong. I'd be really interested to know what you think around all of that. whether or not what she did was wrong. Because if this is her attitude, if Susan believes that for whatever reason this is an argument which is going to demonstrate the difference between the Liberal Party and the Labor Party, she is wrong. This is the wrong way to start. And this, I think, is her agenda. Watch this space. Let's see what happens. And please remember to subscribe to my channel and ring the bell for further notifications. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves, and be safe.